And we are back, and more information regarding the preachings of Shaul. Very important understanding also, there is the grand confusion of the centuries. I think in final sense, we have come to a conclusion that the laws of the Torah are absolutely holy, and the Torah is active. And the main point is this: the nation of Israel, they should have gone out and they should have set camps around the world ever since the time of Yahshua. This was the plan. So there many people are saying, so what would be then the Torah? The Torah was to be kept in each camp in its entirety. Each camp, they should do every portion of the Torah. That's why they were trained in for more than 1,000 years. And then the rest of the people of the world, they should only show up at their gates for more teaching. But the goys outside the gate, they are not bound to the entire Torah. They do study it. They receive training from it. But what we have in hand as our guidelines is what is available from the Torah grace. So make note of it. That's why there is so much confusion outside, because the Torah is holy, but there are levels of it. Those people from Israel, they should have gone out and going around the world, and they should set up camps as per Moses' instructions. Whatsoever Moses said for you to do and observe, these do and observe, except the Takanot and Maasim. And then the rest of us guys outside the camp, we are being made tzaddik. We are in a situation of transforming ourselves yet. And we are not bound by the entire Torah, other than starting with the Torah grace. But those people in a camp, they must observe the entire Torah, because they are in the presence of Elohim. So the grand confusion is done away with. And that's why Israel is lost. They are out of their places, because they should be in camps, as described by Moses, because came from on high. And the rest of us, we are not bound by the Torah. We study the Torah, but our primary guidelines are the Torah grace, not the entire Torah, because we are not yet from the camp. Try to understand and draw a line. Whatsoever Moses said for you to do and observe, these do and observe. Matthew 23rd chapter, from 1st to the 3rd verses. Start making sense, doesn't it? And then the only point that was completed was the dams of animals. Those were completed. Yahshua came in the form of Yahweh Yeshua, and he did his part. He completed. And then whatsoever was from before remained as it was before. And the guys outside the camp, they have the guidelines from Yahshua, and Shimon, and Shaul, and Yehuda, and the acts of the Ruach HaKodesh. But we are not bound to the entire Torah. because we are not from the camp. Should we study the Torah? Absolutely. Should we obey in every word? No. Because we are not from the camp. We can't, because it takes Ruach HaKodesh. And we don't have Him living our lives yet. There is the influence of Him. Is it realistic for a person working for the world, expecting to be away from work for 7 days to maintain a feast? Is it realistic? It's not realistic. But those from the camp, they should. Because they are maintaining those from outside. They can't expect the guys outside of the camp to do what the camp is doing. It's insane. During the time of Israel, when came the special feasts, and then there was the part of the autumn feast, in a day and an hour that no person would know, with the sound of the trumpet, they didn't know when the day was going to come. But there were goys and also the people from the camp working together. When they heard the sound of the shofar, they would drop what they were doing, the people from the camp, and they would return. The goys would remain on the field working. We must draw a line with this, because we are not part yet from the camp. We are not from the camp. We are the very people that will show up at the gate and receive more teaching. Until Ruach HaKodesh draws those people from the outside in the camp for further training. Then the entire Torah must be done. So it gives us a sense of relief, because each part in its place. So then people making themselves tzaddik, they must not do what the Torah states in its entirety. It's not realistic. Think of it. During the time of the feasts, some of those feasts, they can last for 7, 8 days or more. Would people be able to do this in the world? Because it wasn't meant for the world, it was meant for the camp. Understand where it came from. But then when Israel is not doing their job, then they shifted the guilt on the world. Oh, the world should be doing. No, the world is not to be doing this. The camps must do this. That's why Israel is lost. Ever since from the time of Joshua, they are barely making any sense. Are they making any sense? They don't make any sense. They read, and barely produce any fruit. Because those people from there, they should be around the world and having their camps set up. So then the words of Moses that came on high, then they are active. Whatsoever Moses said for you to do and observe, do and observe. And people outside, they are not bound to be obedient to an entire Torah because they are from the world. But those people in a camp, they are bound to do what the Torah states. That's their job. So then we understand that the Torah is holy, and it was holy, and shalt be holy for eternity. However, there are levels. That's why people, the goys outside, they are being made tzaddik. They are becoming his justice, Yahshua's justice, as he was the justice. So when the people are drawn from the outside in the camp, then the entire Torah must be done, because they are in the presence of the Creator himself. That's what it means, being set apart. The world is not being set apart. The world is condemned. And the rest of us, we have the guidelines of Yahshua. The Torah, grace. We don't abscond ourselves with his grace. We live by faith. We trust his words. And we also study the Torah, but is it realistic for us to do what the Torah states away from the camp? Can you take sometimes 10, 20 days more from work and go to Jerusalem to observe the feast? Ask yourselves. It's not realistic, because it was meant to be realistic in this point. Only those that the Father draws from the outside can produce justice. In other words, can produce fruit, can be fruitful. If only those that the Father draws from the outside can produce fruit, can the people outside produce fruit? No, they can't produce fruit, because they were not drawn in a camp. Only those that the Father draws from the outside can produce justice, because then they are going to be trained, senses exercised, Torah is studied, and they would form another group to set up another holy land. And the people outside, they live by faith of what Yahshua taught. Then start making more sense. So then, what's our part? Encourage the Hebrew brothers to return to their camps, because this is what Yahweh, the Creator, told them to do. Why are we guys being forced to obey the Torah if we were not chosen? We are not to set apart. We were grafted in a vine. We are not the set apart people. We were granted our position in the Mashiach, but we are not from the set apart. Israel is the set apart, and they are not doing their job. Whatsoever Moses said for you to do, these do and observe. Was he speaking with the guys? No, he was speaking with the people of the law and the scribes. He was directly speaking to them, because they were the leaders. So we must encourage then our Hebrew brothers to return to their camps. So from there they begin then to direct the world as it was before. So then the guys outside and then the other people that were never from the faith, they can, oh boy, at least is somewhat in place. So this is what it means. We encourage them to return to their camps, because this was an order from on high. Because every Israelite dying without being obedient to the Messiah, they're going to the first death as a prostitute or any other person in sin. This is what Yahshua said. Prostitutes and tax gatherers, they are going to be first in the kingdom of heaven than yourselves, if they would repent. Otherwise, they would be considered as a prostitute and tax gatherers. And this is the condition of Israel. They were not meant to be mixed with the world. Try to understand this point. Set apart. Moses came down from the mountain in the midst of the desert because they were set apart. The understanding was, when came instructions from on high, in every area they observed around them, it was absolutely desert. The meaning was, death is beyond the eyes. They were far away. It was a shadow, prophetic understanding of the future. They were not to be mixing with the world. So then the first step from the Goys and also the saved Hebrews is starting up camps. There are a lot of Hebrew brothers that they have lots of land, lots of wealth. Start up camps. If they are honoring the Torah, if they say themselves they are saved in the Messiah, and if they don't do this, then forget it. They are as lost as the others. Because the main responsibility of the teachings of Moses that came from on high is upon them. If they didn't understand this point, from this point on, then they understand. They should go out and start up camps. Much more coming up.